Today I'm joined by Rod Fleeman, guitarist extraordinaire.
Hi, Ken.
How's it going?
Good, good.
Rod's a long-time fixture on the Kansas City music scene. Has always played with the best groups in Kansas City, the finest musicians, and everybody's always excited. I know as a musician, when I get you on the gig, get a chance to play with you, it's always a treat.
Well, thank you.
And been a Kansas City icon, and then also a lot of national and international touring. You've got an interesting history, a lot of jazz stories, and we want to get into that, but I want to start with just talking about the steady gig you're doing on Saturdays at Green Lady Lounge. Tell us about that.
Well, it's been a gem for me. It's been a chance to do a lot of writing, and everybody in the group for that matter. Even Ray just wrote a song recently. We started performing, and of course Gerald's a very prolific writer. But it's just been a great experience doing 2:30 to 5:30 on a regular basis and having the same people for the most part. I mean, sometimes people have to go out of town for various reasons.
Sure.
But to have that consistency is just so important to developing the music.
Right. And you've done a wide variety of one-nighters and steady gigs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And that having that steady gig really allows you to kind of grow something, doesn't it?
Yeah, in the early days, it was like almost most of the bands in town were like steady engagements. Like Bettye would be at the Ramada Inn somewhere for a 2 or 3 year long contract, 6 nights a week. And I was very lucky. My first chapter, I guess if you say chapter of a life, a musical life, was with Greg Meise, and that was playing at the Wild Hawker after hours joint.
Right.
I was 19. I wasn't supposed to be in the place because I was too young. And I just happened to go in on the night that Rob was leaving.
Oh, wow.
And so
he was going to join Jack McDuff or something like that?
Well, I think at the time, he was just going to start doing his own trios in town, and he wanted to be on his own. And anyway, so that turned into a 6-night-a-week gig. We started at 11, p.m., and went till 3 a.m.
And that's where 31st Street hits Southwest Boulevard, right? Where that Quick Trip's there.
Right, the Quick Trip is there.
It's
but
called
that
the
used to be
Jayhawker, just in
the
Kansas.
The Wild Hawker.
Wild Hawker.
Combination of Wildcat and Jayhawker.
But just on the Kansas side, right?
Right, yeah, so it qualified as an after-hours joint.
Right,
And,
private club.
Private club, yes, so to speak. But that was 6 nights a week, and I learned so much. I mean, it was, that time period, obviously, before smartphones and tablets and everything else. So I literally went to that gig, and my first night I said, well, Greg, where's the music?
Right, where are the charts?
He just laughed. Of course, Greg is blind. And so he said, we just play. And I thought, okay, maybe I should have learned a few more songs before embarking on this. But I got thrown into the deep end of the pool, so it was hard. I got sick to my stomach almost every night before the gig because you were so exposed. And then the audience it was a tremendous thing for me because the audience was, a lot of people came in after 1 o'clock. The Missouri clubs all closed at 1.
Yeah.
So most of the audience were musicians. Right. So John Elliott would come in, my former teacher and soon to be my teacher again.
Right.
And Milt and Bettye, Abel, just all the Kansas City icons. So it was great exposure for me. Right.
Well, I heard a story from Chad Mize that Greg had told about Jimmy Smith, the organ player, coming in.
Right.
And sitting right next to the organ,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Watching Greg like a hawk.
Right. So that had to be just a great gig. Well, so on your Saturday afternoon Green Lady Lounge gig, you've got Gerald Spaits and you've got Ray DeMarchi on drums.
I'm so fortunate to have both those guys. They're just they're icons.
Well, tell me, what was like the first memory, or an early memory anyway, you have of Gerald Spaits?
Well, the earliest memory with Gerald was that he was like when he was still in high school, I think he was like a band boy for Steve Miller. And I moved back to Kansas City after leaving Dry Jack in like 1980, 81. And Gerald would be there to tear down the equipment. Steve Miller would hire someone to help set up the band and tear it down at the end of the night. And And that's the first time I met Gerald. And then, of course, later on, got to know Gerald, you know, he was playing with Russ Long. Both Ray and Gerald were part of Russ Long's trio, so I started doing, you know, occasional guest appearances with that group.
I remember seeing them at what became Benton's, the Top of the Crown.
Right. They
I
had
remember seeing that group
steady
there.
gig there, yeah.
Right, and they had hotel rooms.
That's right. That's great.
And so, how about Ray? I mean, you saw him with Russ, but were there other things?
That was primarily through Russ that
Right.
I met Ray and got to play with him, and yeah. And
Now, we've recorded that group a few times, and we recorded it back. It was April 20th of 2019. We recorded one of your Saturday afternoon gigs at Green Lady Lounge, and that's going to come out. That recording is going to come out in early 2023. That featured Todd Strait on drums.
Right.
He was still doing the gig before he moved back to the Beaverton, Portland area.
that's right. And Todd, you know, was just, you know, so fantastic, you know. And I guess for me, you know, I'd say the 80s were kind of about, you know, working a lot and
Right.
doing a lot of country club gigs. Learned a lot from doing that. Learned a lot of songs
Right.
from doing those kind of gigs, and very fortunate to be working with some incredible musicians like Carmel Jones
Right.
and Herman Bell and
Wow. Yeah.
and Julie Turner. You know, just fantastic.
She swings so hard when she sings.
She, you know, the song's swinging before you play the first note because
Just her
her
count
count
off.
off is, you know, you got to try to match the intensity of her count off, you know.
That's so awesome. Oh, that's great.
But then, Todd moved here from New York
Right,
and
back from New
lived
York.
I think first lived in Lawrence, and it was amazing. I was just watching all the pieces of the puzzle kind of come to me.
Wow.
I mean, if I can put it that way,
Sure.
because I was playing a lot of country clubs, but I had no real jazz identity. You know, I wasn't working in the clubs.
Right.
And so then, you know, Bob Bowman moved back here, and that was my first connection with Bob was
Okay.
we did some stuff with, you know, on some gigs together, and we started to get together and play and, you know, conjure up arrangements. And I started playing a lot with Bob, and then, you know, Todd moved back here and started working with them, and
Right. I remember seeing them at Milton's.
yeah, at Milton's a lot.
Yeah.
And then of course my friend from way back when, Danny Embry, moved back, and I thought, oh darn, you know, there go the gigs now.
There's another sheriff in town.
Danny
The boss is
had
back.
Danny had that tight relationship with Bob, and they used to be practically neighbors in California.
Okay.
And of course I just thought, well, all right, I had my little time, you know, but then Bob came up with the idea of Inner String, of us playing together, and it was really an incredible experience to be, you know, with Danny, you know, who's, like I say, lifelong friend. I mean,
Right.
we go way back to when we were about 18 or 19, you know.
Right.
And so that was how that came about, and then
And that group released what, 2 CDs?
2 CDs, yeah, 2 CDs, and I think there's another one that was a live CD that was very rare, but it was a Christmas one we did at Unity.
Okay.
That was all Christmas arrangements that we did, or originals, you know.
Right. Okay.
And so
Luke
that's
Stone recorded a Harbor Lights gig. And it's actually a pretty good.
really,
Yeah, it's a pretty good recording.
wow,
That
wow,
exists
yeah,
out
that was
there.
that brings back memories in Lawrence, yeah.
Right. Right.
And of course, then the playing with Inner String, then that led to meeting Karrin Allyson and starting to work with her, and then that just started a whole other chapter of international travel and all that with her, and so we're very fortunate to have all that kind of, you know, the country clubs were all drying up. Everything was
Sure.
going the way of the dinosaur.
Right.
And the DJs were kind of taking over everything. And all of a sudden, I'm finding myself playing music I love to play with people I love to play with.
Sure.
And it was, like I say, it was just all the pieces of the puzzle just kind of came here, and it was, you know, very fortunate for me.